Yeah, there's something about your love. Yeah, there's something about your love.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Whiskey Geeks, another episode. Excited to have everybody on board. I'm Tim.
And I'm Alex. We are two brothers combining our love of whiskey and comics, and our quest is to find you the perfect pairing of those two.
Yummy. Yes, it is. And today I think we've got a real banger, which I've probably said at the start of almost every episode.
No, that's your thing. Yeah.
It is. I say banger a lot, so I am going to roll with it. Today we are bringing you a really great pairing, I think. I think it's going to score high on our pairings, not to spoil the ending of this episode, but we are drinking, and oh my gosh, I am running low on this bottle, it seems. We're drinking the Tomatin 12-year-old.
Now,
and
just to
go
jump
ahead.
in here, I got you that for Christmas last year, so I think you've done fairly well. I mean, you still got a
Not
bit
bad.
there.
Yeah, it's over a year that I've had it. When we started, planning the site out, I really wanted to do this one because, thank you, I should say, for the gift. This is a very good gift. And I've actually, before we get into that, I'm just going to let you know that as another spoiler, I've liked Tomatin so much that I picked up a second bottle, but I'll bring that up later. So we are drinking the Tomatin 12-year-old, which was aged in bourbon and sherry casks. It's a wonderful Highland distillery just south of Inverness, actually. And we are talking about the 1989 graphic novel Triumph and Torment, which brings together two classic Marvel characters, Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange, the team up of the Doctors.
Yeah, of course they would team these two up, right? They just fit so well together.
I mean,
They have
they
all the
both
same
have
values. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
they both have their degree. They've got a PhD.
Yeah. So
clearly we'll just put them together, and why not? It makes sense. Now, before we really get into that, do you know much about Tomatin? I'm gonna educate people a little bit on Tomatin. It is one of the 10 largest producers in Scotland for volume.
So actually, I was, just getting prepped for this, I was doing a little bit of research, and that really surprised me, actually, because it isn't one of the, more known, single malt scotches that come out of Scotland. But like you said, it is one of the biggest producers.
Yeah, they do send a lot of stuff to blends, and then I think with the rise in popularity of single malts that everybody's seen in the last 10, 12 years or whatever, they've really started to up their game in the single malt world. It's probably been more than 12 years. I'm probably not giving that enough time, but who knows? We've only been doing this for a little bit of time, really gotten into it. So their core range, they've got a legacy, which is a non-age statement. They've got a couple other non-age statement whiskeys as well. And then they've got a 12, and I think it's a 15, 18, 30, 36. They've also released a 50. The second bottle that I've got here is a limited release. It's the finished in Amontillado sherry.
I don't think I've got a sample that has been mailed to me.
You have not yet. No. I actually just picked this up a month ago, and I'm doing work on it. So I like this one. I like the regular 12 more. But we're going to get into it because I think you've had this a while back, but it was at my place a while ago.
I feel like it was either right after I gave it to you last Christmas,
right,
or we were down. No, you know what? Because then it became into the COVID
because we all
times.
know what happened 2020. Visiting stopped.
I don't really think I made it back down. So you know what? It probably has been close to a year.
Yeah.
Unless you mailed me a sample of this some other time over the summer and I just got into it.
I might have.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I'm coming into this one. I'm going to say I'm coming into this one a little fresh.
Good. I like it.
I'm excited.
So
yeah.
One of the reasons why I wanted to do this whiskey and actually this book, I had heard about this book for a long time. And I just never got around to reading it. So when I did read it, I thought, man, what a great kind of introduction to Doctor Doom specifically and his whole steez. Because, I mean, me personally, I wasn't really a huge Doctor Doom guy growing up. He's not the friendly, he's a bad guy when you're a kid reading comics. You don't really want to read about the bad guys. You want to read about the heroes. And then when I kind of got back into comics, I was more into the Batmans and, Green Lanterns and Punisher. And I picked up one of the books that I did pick up. I brought this out to show is the Jason Aaron Doctor Strange run, which is an amazing book, this really kind of got me back into Strange as a character, which was the other reason why I wanted to read this book that I'd heard so much about. So I think it's a really great introduction and, you know, kind of ease people who are new to the comics world to learn about these two characters in a fun way. Much the same, I find the Tomatin 12, for those who are kind of new to the whiskey, it's not aggressive. It's nice and sweet. It's really fruity. I actually recommend this to a lot of people who are looking for something to either give as a gift if they don't know what kind of whiskey their dad, uncle, friend, mom likes. I always say like Tomatin 12 is pretty great. And like you said, it's not like a Lag 16 or a Glenfiddich. It's not one of the like super popular ones. So they probably aren't going to have it in their house. And if they do, they're going to like it. So it's a good, it's a good one to have.
No, absolutely.
And it's not that expensive. I think it's $100-ish bucks. The limited edition Amontillado Sherry I picked up at the LCBO for $100. And I'm pretty sure the 12-year-old's under that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's $79.99 Canadian.
Yeah, under $100 bucks for a bottle. So I don't know, like on the nose right away, I get, for me, this is like it's fruit. I get like pear, apple, grapes, like raisins, that kind of stuff. But then you also get like this vanilla sugar sweetness to it as well. A little bit of spice in it, but not a whole lot. It's super easy. You don't get, I think it's 43%.
Yeah, it's 43.
43, so it's not strong.
With the raisins, almost like some like dried prunes. Mm-hmm. And then I would say like behind that, you sort of get like a little bit of like a creamy almond, like something in that.
Nutty?
Something a little nutty.
Yeah.
I poured mine. Cool. I poured mine early, so mine's been breathing here a little bit in the glass.
So oddly enough, I watched, as I'm sure other people do who are watching this right now, I watch a lot of other people review whiskeys online, and there's, Ralphie is one of the big reviewers that a lot of people know of, and his rule of thumb is a minute in the glass for every year in the cask. When he reviewed this one, he actually recommended twice that much. He said that on a first pour, if you just go in and smell it, it is strong. I didn't really get that as much. It could be that over the last, 6 months, I seem to have been drinking a lot of cask strength stuff. Been doing a lot of tastings with like super peaty, like the Octomores and some Ardbegs and, really, really strong stuff.
Yeah. So
for me, I can bomb into this pretty heavy. And it didn't really burn that much, like what he was saying. Not to throw shade at Ralphie, the dude's a genius. Oh, yeah. So I don't think it's a bad thing that you had it out for a while. I think that it actually helps. It does smooth it out a little bit. I'm not finding it as, like, some people were saying that it's almost a little spicy right off the top. Mm-hmm. And they were saying just like it's that lack of smoothness that comes in the 12. And I think, I can't remember what I was reading or whatever. They're saying like, well, the 18 is so much more. And I'm like, well, yeah, 6 more years in a cask will do that. It's going to smooth it out.
But for a, like, kind of jumping right into this, I'm not finding it like assaulting on the nose at all. Mm-mm. Like, I'm not getting that sort of alcohol-y burn in the nostrils like you do with, like, some of the, either the more peated stuff or the more heavily, like the stuff with a higher alcohol content. And then same thing on the palate. Like, I'm actually finding it, like it's quite nice. Like, there is some spice for sure.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not getting that like really sharp peppery spiciness that some of the other people, and maybe that's because mine sat for, I don't know, it was the better part of half an hour here while we were getting ready to go. Yeah. So maybe that smoothed it out a little bit, but.
So there you go. Do check tech checks for podcasts and recording before you drink your whiskey, and then he forces it to sit in the glass for a little bit.
Yeah. Longer. And for me, because I only had I've only got the 1 dram here. I don't have the bottle there in front of me, so I can't re-pour. So it's not like I can sneak in a bit before we get going here.
Yeah. For me, though, honestly, it's super approachable. Like it's, if we want to talk mouthfeel, it's a little bit on the oily side. It's not super crazy. The finish is medium. It's not long.
Yeah.
It's not like, again, it's not the most, it's not the most complex whiskey on the planet. It's, for me,
But as
I'm
an
not
introduction.
as an introduction.
That's what you want. It doesn't sit in the tongue and the cheeks for a long time and, sort of roll and develop as you go with something that has a really long finish. Like you said, it's super approachable. It's something that, like, I think you could give this to anyone who comes over and is like, I'd love a Scotch.
Yeah.
I don't like peat. What do you have? I think this is something that's really great to introduce them. Like, hey, this is a really nice Highland whiskey.
Yeah. And it also, in a weird way, you could also introduce this to someone who likes Baysides, because it also flirts that line of, my cat is here and you're probably going to hear that, which is super frustrating. Podcat, as I like to call her, because she always interrupts my podcasts.
She never does this when we talk on the phone. It's only when we're recording.
It's only when I record anything. It's fine. But like someone who likes Baysides, like if they're really into the Macallan and the Glenfiddichs of the world and they've not gone into the Highland, I think this is a nice introduction into the Highlands for somebody there as well. The one thing that I get a lot on this is what it just reminds me of. And then we'll start talking comics, because I know there's probably people here watching who want to know about comics too, is it's just like apple pie, or, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's that vanilla sugar.
Yeah.
There's
like
a bit
baking,
of buttery.
like
There's a
some
bit of
baking
butteriness
spices
to it, but then like apple pear. I just get that like super nice,
comforting
fall comforting, delicious dessert.
Yeah. Like this would actually, like you say, that this is a great like Thanksgiving dram if you're having like pumpkin pie, because it's got some of that, almost like a gingerbread or it's really quite nice.
Yeah, it's great. It's really nice. So let's talk comics.
I'm going to keep enjoying this as we
keep doing that.
We dive into the comics.
I poured just a tiny one for myself tonight. We're coming off of holidays, and I've been doing a lot of whiskey. But you enjoy it. So let's dive into this book though, because what a fun friggin' read. So again, released 1989, the graphic novel Triumph and Torment, was written by Roger Stern, and the artwork, which is for me. Is Mike Mignola, which some people might know that name, the creator of Hellboy. So having a book where Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange go into hell, not a bad guy to jar your book.
Oh yeah, his take on Mephisto was awesome.
Super cool.
Like, it was just so cool.
Yeah.
So like that artwork was spectacular. Actually, and we may have said this before, but when I think comic books, this is always the artwork that I envision, right?
Right.
It's like this sort of, and this is like when we grew up, right? We were both kids. This was like the first taste that we got. Yeah. So it's the same reason when I think of, like Star Wars, I can see that sort of grainy VHS quality. And when I watch it on, in HD, I was like, it kind of looks strange. But this is that artwork that I really love. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I mean, we're born in the 80s. So, for us, that's like those 90s comics, the classic 90s comics was kind of like our bread and butter growing up. This, honestly, you could have told me that this book was released in 96, 97-ish, and I probably would have believed you. You could also tell me that it was early 80s, and I could believe you. You could also tell me that this was mid 2000s and they were going for that retro vibe, and I would believe that as well. Like the artwork in this book is crazy. I read it digital, so I wish I had a copy here, but we will flash up some panels so you can see it. But yeah, Mike Mignola's artwork is just fantastic, and Mark Badger as well. His work coloring and inking and stuff like that. It's just the artwork in this book is really
what
great.
They were doing here with Strange, even with Doom too, like in some of the like the fight sequences, it has that classic, like the sorcery and like the bulbs, like the balls of energy around their hands and the way they shoot out. and honestly, like that hasn't changed. Like they're doing that exact same style of stuff. Like even today, like in the strange one, the Jason Aaron run that you have. I was gonna say, like, because you lent that to me after, and like that's how I sort of got back into Doctor Strange as well.
It's a great book.
It's got a lot of that same feel from the current stuff. Even like if you go out of the MCU and you get into like some other, I mean, over my right shoulder, I've got one of the newer D&D runs up on the wall here from Baldur's Gate. But when they get into the magic, like it's that same side of stuff. Like anytime some wizard or sorcerer is going to cast a spell, like you get that flash of light around their palm. You can't see their hand anymore. The energy streaks out. And it goes right back to what he was doing with Strange and Doom in this book. Yeah.
Now I picked two of the worst books to possibly pull up on this one. Because I mean, I also grabbed this Doctor Strange and the Punisher mashup because this is another cool one. But no, 100%. That's exactly what they're doing. You know, and it's just the artwork is just bonkers, and the story is super effing cool. So we don't like to do too much story stuff on these shows. If you're new to the Whiskey Geeks, we like to leave you enough that you're going to go and read it yourself. But basically, the story is Genghis and the Vishanti. They've got this deal that Genghis, who's like this, kind of like the Ancient One, but not the Ancient One. This is a good way to think about it. So he traded the Vishanti, who are like kind of the gods and the deities who grant sorcerers their power. That's who they pull their power from, the Vishanti, to do their sorcerer spells. They've got this deal that in exchange for knowledge, every 100 years, Genghis is going to challenge all of the sorcerers on Earth to find out who will be the Sorcerer Supreme. So in this book, you're getting a backstory of how Stephen Strange became Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
And so you get this big contest where all of these sorcerers from the planet show up. And then who else shows up but Victor Von Doom, who isn't really a mystic. He uses more technology, but he has learned how to use magic, and he's learned the kind of the mystic arts. And one of the other sorcerers challenges him and says, "You're not a mystic. Why are you here? You just use technology. You shouldn't be allowed." And he literally lays down the gauntlet by throwing down his gloves, his actual gauntlets, and says, "Let's roll. I got you."
Yeah.
And so long story short, they go, obviously we know who's going to win. Strange wins, but Dr. Doom gets second place. And the prize for the second place in this contest is they get to ask a favor of the winner, and the Sorcerer Supreme has to grant it. And what is the favor?
Well, this is where we get the amazing backstory for Doom. We find out that when he was little more than an infant, his mother was trying to protect and save her community, and we find out they were all gypsies. So she goes and like calls on the occult and does this as he pours another dram.
Just a little bit.
And she creates this, she goes through like an occult ceremony, and she calls upon someone to come and grant her the power to protect her people. And who shows up but Mephisto? And she initially says, "No, I don't want this. I don't want power from you." And his response, I mean, in classic, devil ways, is, "But you could make your son a king. Like, I'll grant you the power to protect your people. Don't be so short-sighted about how you're getting the power. Think about your family. Think about those that you're protecting." So of course, she accepts the power, immediately turns around and goes off to like challenge the town guards and say, "You're not going to like harass us anymore." And, they step up and like, "Oh, she must just be drunk. Like, let her be." And then she like hurls an energy ball and obliterates the dude.
It's amazing.
It's a really cool scene. And then what follows is, while she got all this power, she wasn't granted control over it. She actually laid waste and killed everyone in the village.
Oops.
Kids, the whole thing.
I mean, it's a little genocide.
I mean, it happens, right? Like
in comics, it seems to happen quite a bit.
Yeah, so like the ultimate evil grants you unlimited power and kind of forgot to tell you how to, hit the governor a little bit and draw back a bit of power. So, anyways, she can't handle it, and so I'm going to yada yada a bit of this here, but she dies, her soul gets, is now trapped in hell because the deal is that she would give her soul over to Mephisto.
Oh, the old classic.
Didn't read the
power
fine print.
For your soul. Whoops.
Yeah. So Von Doom grows up, and his thing every year on midsummer or midwinter?
I think it's summer.
We'll roll with midsummer.
Someone's going to comment that we're wrong and jackasses. So sorry.
Or we get the thumbs up because we're right.
Hey. Take it.
So he goes and tries to cross the threshold into hell to battle Mephisto for the right to release his mother's soul. So that's sort of the backstory of why Doom is the way Doom is, how he got his power. There's a little quick scene about him, getting into his suit and all the studying that he does. This is what drives him to become the best he can be. It's to save his mom.
Yeah. And every year he always ends up stalemating Mephisto and can't quite beat him. And so his favor to Doctor Strange, the new Sorcerer Supreme, is help me save my mom's soul, which is very heartwarming for a despot, we'll say. There's Iron Fist ruler of Latveria.
Yeah, there's some really good homage to World War II or Nazi Germany in here, where Strange shows up to Latveria and he's in the town car and
parading.
This girl shows up with flowers
That's great.
You came back, Von Doom, you came back as you promised you would, and everyone's happy, and Strange is I mean, I think this is all just for my benefit, but they seem happy.
Yeah. So anyway, then there's the classic good guy, bad guy team up, and they have to go into Mephisto's world, and we won't tell you what happens, but it's great.
Betrayal, little surprise.
It's great. Yeah. It's great.
So
buy this book, go read it. Get it on digital if you don't want to buy it, but in the actual trade when you buy it, there's actually a bunch of backstory extra issues in the back of it as well. There's a Doom story, a Strange story, and some Namor stories apparently. Again,
I did not get that far because I read it digital as well.
Well, yeah, we just got the Bane story, but when you get the actual paper copy of it, there's all these other books in it. So go and pick it up. It's great. Go and pick up a bottle of Tomatin 12 too. It's really, really good.
This is a really nice tramp.
The more you sit on it, the more you work on it.
It's becoming even more.
It's better. Yeah,
it's getting sweeter. There's a bit more now that I've had a couple drinks. The nose is actually a bit more pronounced as well.
You lose the super sweetness that you get initially, and it's more balanced. And it's really, really pleasant.
It's quite enjoyable.
As you continue to drink that, I want to talk to you about something else too, which I thought about as I was kind of writing this out and rereading the story again, is best fictional competitions or tournaments.
I love this.
So I've got a top 5.
Okay.
And then I've got some honorable mentions. So we're gonna do the honorable mentions first. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you my top 5, and then I'm gonna let you see what you think of my top 5. See if you think that I nailed it.
I've got 3 in my head already, so I bet I'll just say I'm sure we're close on a few of them.
Give me 2 of them.
Okay.
And I'll tell you if they're in my top 5.
Okay. The very first thing I thought of was Bloodsport, because as a kid of the 80s and 90s, Van Damme and the Kumite obviously was the biggest thing. I can't remember how many times we watched that movie.
1,000?
Yeah.
Were you bummed out when you found out that Frank Dukes was just full of shit? But it counts. I counted on this list because it's fiction. So
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Well, it's a good thing on my list. It's a good thing the internet didn't exist when Bloodsport came out, because the whole based on a true story would have got crapped on so fast. Because at the time I was like, oh my god, this is a real guy, and he went underground, and then I don't know if I my favorite video game of all time, but I mean, we poured hours and hours and hours into Mortal Kombat, and then we could quote that entire movie. So, I mean, Mortal Kombat, I mean, the War of the Realms, it's, you got to protect Earth.
It's high on my list. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you where, but yeah.
All right. Okay.
100%.
So those are the first 2 that jumped out. So anyways,
cool.
you go and do yours, because I'm excited to hear what else you got.
I'll hit you with the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the from 5 to 1. Hunger Games, got to put that on there.
Yep.
You know, I watched the first movie. I understand the books were very popular. I'm a little bit too old to really have gotten into those, although we'll get to something that I maybe was too old for some people. That's on my list. But anyway, Hunger Games.
My wife read them all. She quite enjoyed them, and I think I saw the first 2. And I mean, it's a cool concept.
Cool concept.
I mean, pitting kids against kids for whatever.
It's kind of weird.
But yeah.
I put Mario Kart in there just because. I threw one on the list as an honorable mention because I know there's people out there who are really into this. I just never got into it, but I put the Duelist Kingdom from Yu-Gi-Oh! I know people are really into that. Full disclosure, no idea. And I think I would have to throw Pokemon on this too, or something with Pokemon. But again, don't get it. I have known nothing about it. Please don't at me.
My son's got so many Pokemon cards, and I think like 1 pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Right.
I have no idea. I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Pokemon, I'm starting to get.
That's cool.
But again,
cool.
It's
So I'm sure that would be high on other people's lists, but for this sake, honorable mention, I'll give it to Highlander as a whole, just because they're going to be only one.
Yes, that's the ultimate tournament.
The ultimate tournament. And I'll throw the pod race
and the
in
Highlander
there as well.
Sorry, I mean it's just
and it's Highland whiskey as well.
Yeah,
it's the whole thing.
Sorry.
Duncan MacLeod, and then pod racing in Star Wars.
Hey, Anakin never would have. Now, okay, here's an interesting thing though. Interesting thought experiment for a quick turn.
I like it.
If he doesn't win that pod race, does he leave to become a Jedi to fall to do?
I mean, I'm assuming Qui-Gon would
just steals him.
Would steal him.
just takes him.
I mean,
anyways.
he technically cheated to get him anyways with the little
the dice
move.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm sure he would have figured something out. By the way,
just on another pod race, and that's fine.
By the way, we'll get into this, I'm sure, at some point. But like Qui-Gon, like my dude has gotten such the shaft in these movies. We need to do a deep dive on Qui-Gon because he did not get his due credit. I
will say he was much better in the now defunct extended universe.
Right.
But,
fair.
Yeah.
I'm talking like main stuff. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways, enough of that. Okay. Hit me. I want your top 5.
So coming in at number 5, the Las Vegas Dodgeball Open.
You dodge a wrench, you dodge a ball.
Right? I mean, the Cobras, Average Joes.
Oh yeah.
Fucking Chuck Norris. Like the movie's classic. Amazing.
I don't know if I would have gotten to there, but I'm very happy that you did.
Thank you. Number 4, I got Bloodsport. Mm-hmm. We already talked about it.
Yep.
I mean,
Chung Lee, the ultimate bad guy growing up. Like, was anyone more fearsome or vicious?
Like, absolutely not. And like, how dumb was it? Ray? I can't remember his name.
It was Ray.
Ray Park. No, that's Darth Maul.
Darth Maul. I want to say Ray. I was going to say Ray. I was going to say Ray Donovan. That's also not him. That's also a different thing.
Right.
Anyways, whatever. He had the Harley Davidson headband. Everyone who knows about Bloodsport knows who we're talking about.
He had him. Number 3, I put the All Valley Karate Tournament.
Oh, very well done.
Right?
Sweep the leg.
You know what I haven't watched yet, and I really need to, and people are going to be really mad, is Cobra Kai on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either.
Okay, we got to watch that, because apparently it's incredible.
I mean, I've watched, like, as I'm scrolling through Netflix trying to figure out what to watch, I've watched the trailer, I don't know, half a dozen times, and then gone, not right now. So yeah, it does. It looks great. And cool. I mean, apparently it's fantastic. So
yeah. All right. Number 2, the Triwizard Tournament from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
That's Now that you've said that, that's amazing. That would have been way high up on my list.
I would say hands down my favorite of the movies. Not my favorite of the books, but my favorite of the movies. It's the one that I've seen the most. For me, that was when that's when they really turned and leaned into the shit's about to go down.
Well, that's when shit's getting
dark.
That's when it became like an adult movie, right?
Yeah.
Like there was that, like, it's cute, now they're just straight killing people.
Yeah. And I love a good tournament. So
Yeah.
It was really good. And then number one, Mortal Kombat. I would yell it, but my child is sleeping upstairs, so I don't want to yell Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But I mean,
we had the soundtrack. I remember blaring that in the backyard. Like I would listen.
We were
to that
buying Nintendo Guide magazines to get the combos and the cheat codes.
Oh yeah.
For
How
Super
do you fight
Nintendo.
Reptile? Like you got to go double flawless
Right.
and then do the uppercut finish on the pitlet. Oh yeah.
And then hold that, and then just the whole thing. You know, just as it went along, Mortal Kombat 3 was when they first had the sprint, the run button, and they brought combos into it, which was a Killer Instinct thing, I think, which they stole from Killer Instinct, which was also a good fighting game. Yeah. But like, just top to bottom, the games were so good.
They were so much fun. And remember how we duped like mom and dad, and we're like, no, like it's a fighting game, but like it's, you know, it's fine. And they didn't know any better. And it was like, just like you're pulling guys' heads out and their spines are, you know.
I remember going to an arcade in Masonville Mall in London, Ontario, when that arcade game was up.
Yeah. And
someone was there and he told me like, oh, just play Raiden and then just go back, forward. And then I was just that idiot who was just like, like all across the screen about 12 times.
Yeah.
But damn.
The equivalent of,
so fun. So fun.
Who was your go-to, I mean, quick before we get back into the comic, who was your go-to character to play with?
In the original, it was Scorpion.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat 3 was probably the game that I put the most amount of time into, and I always played Sector.
Oh, that's right, you did.
The robot who launched the missile out of his chest. I think you used Cyrax a lot.
I used Cyrax. Yeah, like the other, he was the yellow
one. Sector was the red one,
Yeah. So in the original, I was either a Scorpion or Sub-Zero.
Right.
Like all the time. And then, in the third, I also used Baraka a lot. Just because I loved the swords out the arms and you could do the, like, the up and down. Like,
I like it. Cool.
Liked that. So, anyways, that was great. Yeah.
That's fun little,
at the top of the list.
Fun little side thing. But anyway, back into what we were talking about. Again, buy this whiskey if you can get it. Under $100. It's really good. I'm getting to the point where I need to get another bottle. Someone wants to gift it to me. I'm not going to say no. Just saying.
Two Christmases in a row? Come on now.
This one as well, the Amontillado, which is like another sherry. Amontillado is not Oloroso, but it's a sweet wine.
Yeah.
It's good. The sherry doesn't come through quite as much on this one as I was hoping or I was wanting. But it is a very smooth, really, really nice whiskey as well. But by all accounts, the Tomatin 18 is good. It's an amazing Highland whiskey. Please go and get it. And go and buy Triumph and Torment, Dr. Doom and Dr. Strange.
Really great intro to both characters.
Really, really good. So before we go, we need to rate these suckers for everybody.
Yeah.
So we've got our
CWG.
CWG, the Canadian Whiskey Geeks rating. So how we do this, for those who this is your first time watching, we rate the whiskey, we rate the comic, and then we rate the pairing together on how they work, on how well they work together to drink and read at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're going to go whiskey first. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, actually.
So I think I'm going to come in just shy of an 8. So it's it's very enjoyable. It doesn't have the depth and complexity that I enjoy. So like that's why it's a little bit lower on the scoring for me. So like a 7.5. Which I will drink 7.5 whiskey all day. Like I'll never say no to someone passing me something like this. So it's quite enjoyable. So that's where I've got it.
I'm pretty close. I'm coming in straight at a 7 for me on it. Again, I've been talking about how good it is. But again, it's the same thing. I mean, drinking anything that's a 7 out of 10, that's, a great thing to drink. But again, it is lacking more.
Yeah.
I'm interested to try the 18 to see if it gets me the more that I was really hoping for. But you know, it would probably, if it was like $125 or something like that, it would be lower just because I don't think it's worth that. But the reason it's getting a 7 for me is for the price point, and as like a nice intro whiskey. Like we've talked about other really good whiskeys to kind of get people in. Like if you want to ease someone into Isla, just go get Bowmore. Bowmore number 1. It's $55. It's great. But there's not a whole lot to it. So same kind of thing here. So it's going to come in at a 7 for me. Comic for me, same. I'm going to give it a 7. It's a great read. The artwork's amazing. You know, it's a wonderful introduction to Doctor Doom, which is a character that I don't think a lot of people know a whole lot about, just because, I mean, if you're a big comic head, obviously you're probably going to read it.
The Fantastic Four.
Or if you really like the Fantastic Four, then you're in it. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are kind of just starting to get more into comics now, and they don't know anything from Doctor Doom other than that Fantastic Four movie, which I never watched because I heard it was terrible. So now is a good time because the Fantastic Four are going to be in the MCU. They haven't announced who the big bad is going to be. We might get Doctor Doom in the MCU, so this is a good time to kind of learn more about the character. So,
well, they did announce that the end of the next big arc is going to be Secret Wars, right?
That's a show.
Oh, that's the show.
They're doing a Secret Wars show.
Oh, okay. Because Doctor Doom was pivotal in that comic arc. So,
so I mean,
he's going to be involved somehow, I would imagine.
Be involved. Yeah. So anyway, what do you give the comic?
Yeah. I'm coming in at a 7 as well. The reason I went with the 7.5 for the whiskey was the same reason you said. It was like the price point value. The reason that this is getting a 7 for me, I'm giving it a bump because of the artwork. Like I really, really enjoyed the artwork. The story was like, it was good. It was fun. I love me a tournament. That was like really early on in the story, with like this tournament just sort of like bang happened. And then there was a bit of convoluted yada yada in the middle, which I sort of like dragged through. And then of course at the end, when they're actually like in hell and they're doing the whole like the team up thing, like I love me a good team up, especially of a pairing that you don't really, like you wouldn't ever think they would be together. Like I really like that kind of thing too. But yeah, it was kind of like the whiskey. There wasn't a ton of depth, so it was, it was really good. I quite enjoyed it. It was a great intro. So yeah, it gets a 7.
Right on. And then finally the pairing together. You know what? I'm just going to be consistent. It's just 7 and again. Yeah. It's, it's a good evening. Pick up this book, pick up that bottle. You're going to enjoy it. It's a great way to kind of introduce both things. You can even give that as a gift to somebody and just tell them like, here's a good night, sit down, read this book, draw a bath, read this book, have this whiskey, hang out by a fire. Like you're going to enjoy yourself. So yeah, it's just a straight 7. Yeah.
I've got so I put the pairing at an 8 just because I thought for all the reasons we've said, I thought the pairing these two books together worked better than like sort of either thing individually.
Right. I like it.
Just like thematically, I thought they worked really well together. And going back to what you just said about like giving these, like combo them up and give them as a gift. We did a tasting online a couple months ago now, and I've got a buddy who lives right around the corner who really likes whiskey and isn't reading comics. He's got 2 kids, like he's super busy. He's fallen out of it, same thing like us. Like he just hasn't gotten back into it. Well, he won the draw at the end of the night. So he got a copy of Court of Owls.
Nice.
And which he'd never read. And he's so excited because he's like, oh, this is going to give me a reason to get back into it. And I think a lot of people, like in our age group or, like plus or minus a decade on either end, right? Like may have fallen out, have been reading some of either they missed it because it was too early when they were into it originally, or they haven't gotten back into it. So like there's some of the newer stories, like the new 52 stuff for DC, and maybe they've just missed it. So like I'm really liking the idea of, putting like a bottle and a book together and giving them as a gift. And anyways, so my buddy's like super jazzed about getting that and getting into it.
That's amazing. We love doing this kind of stuff and making that. So if you out there in listener land, if you have questions, or if you're wanting to get in touch with us about anything, if you want to recommend something to us, if you're looking for recommendations, if you're saying, I've got someone who reads this comic religiously, I want to buy them a bottle of whiskey, shoot us an email. It's the Whiskey Geeks. There is an E in whiskey. So the whiskeygeeks@gmail.com. Shoot us an email. We will help you with your pairings. Or if you're a big whiskey fan and you want a good book to read, let us know what you're drinking. We will give you a book to read. And subscribe. You know, the podcast is available.
Smash that button.
The podcast, if you're listening to it as a podcast, it's available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching this on the YouTubes and you want to just listen to it, again, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We're going to be doing these, 2 a month is the plan. Yep. And then you can go to thewhiskeygeeks.com as well. Same spelling.
Our articles yep. are up there. We try to cover some different things in the podcast and the articles. They're very complementary to each other, so we don't want to double dip. Try to keep that content fresh.
Absolutely. So make sure you're going and reading the article on this one as well. Really appreciate everybody watching. We have a ton of fun doing this. I hope you guys had fun watching this. I want to thank Colin Response for the use of the song Something About Your Love as our theme song. It's off his self-titled album. You can get that on Apple Music, and it's on Spotify. Colin Response, Colin Response, all one word. Fantastic artist out of Toronto. So make sure you go and like his stuff as well. And we'll be back again, in a couple weeks with another episode.
Come on back.
More drams and more books. It's going to be fun. We love doing this stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Let us know in the comments. Or email us. We're on Instagram as well, Whiskey Geeks. Just find us. Just send us messages.
It's the same everywhere.
Everywhere. It's everywhere.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and cheers. Remember, Scotch and stories, they were made for each other.
Yes, they were. Thanks, buddy.
Cheers.